Hello and welcome to the 4Corners podcast. I'm Brad, joined by Matt and Shad. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
Doing good.
Upright.
Yeah, we did not know. Shad was a game time decision tonight.
I've got the major wrestling injury that took me out. The nerve pain that gets me was really flaring up today.
Yep. So we have a I wouldn't say it's a different show tonight. But we're doing this happened I think the 26th of May in was it Glendale, Arizona, or is it Scottsdale?
Oh,
Scott's
that's a good question. I think
that's the Diamond Arena, Diamond Joe Casino.
Yeah. So we're doing Action Dean, which is a joint action wrestling Ring of Honor show. This is in honor of Dean Rasmussen, the owner of DVDR. So this would be the second annual one, and I think Matt came across it, and it honestly, I hope more people watch it because, I mean, spoiler alert, I had a lot of fun watching this show, so we'll get into that more.
it was in Glendale. Um, yeah, and this was the second one. They did one last year as a tribute to Dean Rasmussen. As backstory, this is people who don't know. Dean Rasmussen was infamous poster, but really a big kind of influencer on the message board days. He was very heavily involved with the Death Valley Driver video review. For those who remember that, and he did a lot of reviews of wrestling, just not even just like here's Dean's review of like WrestleMania. It's like no, he would review all types of wrestling.
It'd be like, hey, here's the 0-1 show in front of 15 fans in a warehouse in like Kobe, Japan, like
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that.
And the Death Valley Driver video review, it was like a blog. It was a message board. That's where a lot of people know it from. But they did kind of a blog where they had different writers, but the writers, and sometimes it's the same writers doing multiple matches, but they would review matches or discuss matches, what they'd seen, and that was actually very influential, like the late '90s, early aughts, to kind of turn people like us into a lot of different styles of wrestling that they maybe didn't see because maybe all they saw was like WWE or WCW back in the day or ECW, or
Or
when it
you
got to
might
be
have you might have gotten a little crazy and seen like your local indie or happened across like NWA
yeah.
Wildside or something.
Yeah, but they would see all sorts of stuff and stuff that you maybe didn't get a chance to see a lot of, like Lucha Libre. Maybe some of that stuff you would see if you had Galavision or Univision, you got to see like
I had it.
AAA
I
or CMLL.
So I had satellite. I had Dish Network from like '97 into like the mid aughts, and so I think my first exposure to Lucha Libre was like 1998, and I was immediately hooked because WCW guys were there,
Yeah,
and it was Saturday night when it started. So I never was as much a AAA guy. I always liked CMLL, but like I
oh,
remember Val Venus showing up on a show. Giant Silva was there too, but I remember Val Venus did a CMLL show with his Val Venus
mm,
gimmick, and he did his whole promo in Spanish, which I thought was
mm.
fun.
I remember this is probably a little bit in the late '90s, but really more like in the early aughts. I know CMLL. I saw both, and I always did prefer CML. I think it probably says something like if you actually like work rate more, you like the wrestling more, you would prefer CMLL. But I remember, I think it was Galavision used to have a 2 or 3 hour block.
Too, I
I almost
think
want to say Saturday and Sunday, but definitely like on one of the weekend days.
they used to
They
trade like
they
so you would get like a week of one and a week of other, sometimes maybe 2 weeks of one, 2 weeks of the other, and then there was a point around I think like 2008 or 2009 where AAA got that slot to themselves and it got upgraded to 3 hours, which
yeah,
was a bummer.
I always thought the wrestling was better in CMLL. Um, AAA was always more.
T
I
Sports
guess they're trying to be
Entertainment.
sports entertainment, yeah, but they also, I guess, in some respects, are more character driven. But I've never felt it was that great. At times it's been very
The
popular,
first
but
couple years when like everyone jumped ship, I thought that, and like Rey Mysterio was coming up, I thought they had the see, the problem is, even when all the talent was in AAA, it was never, they always botched it somehow. Like when they did their big when they're doing their big global expansion, they had a lot of talent. But I honestly, I know it's been like a decade, but I do not think they've ever properly recovered from Pero Aguayo Jr. dying.
yeah, because his faction, is it Perros del Mal,
Yep.
was big. Like I don't I don't know quite how to equate it, but
They were in like 2005, 2006, and I think into 2007 with Mystico on top against them. CMLL was drawing better than like anyone in the world.
yeah, it was. Think of it, for those who don't or aren't aware of this period or haven't seen any of this, and they want kind of a modern day comparison. It was kind of like the Mexican version of like the Bloodline, in the sense that it was hot.
I
it was
actually
an
think
overact.
I would more put it akin to, because of like who joined it, because like it was like it was more like the NWO for like Mexico,
Fair
because
enough.
like you had like, because you had like established guys, like you had like Damien 666, like Halloween,
Mhm.
like if you saw Perez Del Mal, it was like all guys like you knew from WCW, or if
Yeah.
you'd watched for a while, they were guys that had been around for a long time. And then he was the leader, and he was super charismatic, and he was a good worker.
hmm Yeah. Uh, and obviously, unfortunately, he passed away due to a kind of just
Like,
random accident in the ring.
and I mean, Rey
With-
Mysterio Jr. was involved, but it was like a total fluke, because I think the rope.
It was,
I
yeah.
think the rope, like, he had a stroke
He-
from whatever happened, but I think the rope was
He-
the culprit.
He basically he was taking a 619, but when he landed on the ropes, he just landed wrong. Like it was actually no one's fault. I mean, when a guy takes like a move like that, they have some degree of control when they hit it, right? They're
Yeah.
not just blindly hitting it, like they have control. So you can't say that it was, in this case, Rey Mysterio Jr.'s fault. It was just accidental, and he landed wrong. He landed wrong, and it there's specific terms for it. To put it very graphically, like he died pretty much instantly because it effectively internally
Yeah.
decapitated him. Like it severed his spinal cord.
Because there were some
Like he's-
assholes
He died
trying to blame.
instantaneously.
There were assholes trying to blame it on Ray at the time, and it was not like his fault.
I've
just took it
seen
wrong.
the video, and it was like the Tyson Kidd thing. It was just this weird freak thing that happened, and I mean that sucks. It really sucks, and I believe there are reports about how screwed up Ray was over it and that sort of stuff.
How can you not be? Like,
Yeah, right.
I mean, you were a worker. You know that even getting in the ring with guys you don't like, maybe have an issue with, whatever, you protect each other. Like that's the code. Like you take
Like,
care
there
of each
was,
other.
I can't think of his name. So with the Blue Jackets, I think the second or third year, a puck went in the stands and hit a girl in the head, and then she literally like walked out, was fine, and then she died later because of the brain injury, but she was fine at the time. But the hockey player that hit the puck, was absolutely destroyed over that. Like, I don't even think he played like many seasons after that, but he was totally just destroyed. Because I mean, I just think you can't handle it. Like, we were talking about that with we just had that conversation where I said, like, even though it's not your fault, like, it still destroys you on the inside.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of is probably a form of like PTSD. I mean, it's something traumatic, and it's like you were kind of, or you feel you were the cause of it, or at least you feel like you contributed to it. It could be completely accidental. But
yeah, there's an assumption of responsibility that goes with it. Even people that I didn't like, that I was out there in the ring with, it's like, no, I'm not gonna. I might light you up a little bit, but there's gonna be a point where, even in a court of law, you couldn't stand up and say, oh, it was a wrestling match. It's like, that doesn't really hold up whenever you do like this stuff. So
yeah,
it's.
obviously big world of difference being like, you have an issue with someone, so you're giving them like a knife edge chop in the corner, and maybe you're a little stiffer with that chop than you normally would be. So it's like,
The best
a
example.
a comfortable slap there. That's a lot
Yeah.
different than like they're gonna do a dive off the top and you just don't catch them. They just fall
The,
flat on their face into themselves. Yeah.
The best example I had seen of the making a point when it comes to chops is instead of doing your standard Ric Flair knife edge chop when they're in the corner, instead they push your chin back and turn around and do it that Big Show overhand downward strike style. Because that's a very special screw you kind of decision to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the listening to guys talk about stuff sometimes, like I think even if they like you might get it worse, because I remember Big Show complaining that when he wrestled Kane, he'd be like, "Well, I'm up." He'd be like, "He's holding me up there way too long," and I just hear him giggling under the mask.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's ribs and screwing with you and that sort of stuff, and then there's being very deliberate in what you're doing. I mean, now that I think back on it, the very last match that I had was someone I didn't like. I did not put him over because I didn't know it wouldn't be my last match, and he decides he wants to chop me, and it was trying to make me look bad because he couldn't work unless he was a superhero babyface, which he sucked at anyway. So, he decides he's going to chop me in the corner, and I flip him around, and I start putting roundhouse kicks into his gut. And it's like, I'm not going to chop you. Instead, I'm going to make sure that, and this was very petty of me, but I was serious. If I'd gone back and we had done another match and he tried to do it again, I was just going to beat the shit out of him. I went home so that his abs were sore because I was just like, no. But that's soft tissue. That's not permanent. That's not.
I know. I think it was Austin talked about working with Bossman. He's like, yeah, it's like Bossman, like, he didn't mean to. He's like, Bossman just got rambunctious, and if he was hitting you a little too hard, you just popped him one, and he'd be like, oh, sorry, and went back to normal.
Austin's told a story about that a few times, where he didn't call what he was coming back for. He just said elbow, and then he popped his elbow this way, and Bossman ran slap into it. And Bossman's like, oh, okay. Oh, wow. I didn't realize I was doing that. Sorry.
So this show is this is an outdoor show, which is it's actually the aesthetic's really interesting. I actually like the way it looked. And
Pause you.
Say what?
Pause you. I'll pause you. I like that, except as the show went on, and to me, it became more annoying during like the Torneo Cybernetico. The fucking lights, like flickering weird, changing color, like that started annoying me. I'm like, ugh.
I know
that was from the LED advertising boards out there.
Maybe, but it's like, come on, guys, that was. Much to me.
That's what it was. Is the LED boards out there are flickering and changing who they're advertising? So it's like,
But yes, I did like the kind of the setup. The venue was outside. It wasn't like a million people in a crowd. It was just like it was like an indie show.
It might have been. They had to. I mean, they probably. I thought the crowd got bigger as it went, but I think they probably had about 200 people there. If I had to guess.
I'm on Cage Match. They don't show how many people were there. It was they had a few. They had a few hundred people, and
it was a good crowd. Like for an outdoor show, I think they had a decent little crowd.
They said it was at Water Dance Plaza, which I don't know anything about in Glendale, Arizona. But to me, it was almost like they're doing it on the Strip in Vegas. That's perhaps just because there's just tons of like LED lights flashing everywhere. But I liked it. I thought it was interesting. It was different. Like. It's not like here we did this show, in a rec center or a high school gymnasium, which they could have. And I mean, look, wrestling, sometimes the best wrestling you'll see or the most fun you'll have is going to see an indie show with like 400, 500 people in like a high school or less in a high school gymnasium, and there's like a grittiness to it. Like that could be some of the best stuff you're going to see.
Yeah.
But also this is so I want there's some things I want to comment on before we get there. So The production values on this are marvelous. This is like, so when people want to bitch about Tony Khan being in wrestling, this is why he's good for wrestling, because this show looks amazing. Like, it's TV quality production.
Yeah.
So then,
Well,
go ahead.
no, well, I just want to add, because I didn't finish my point earlier. I was getting long-winded, and we got into the Lucha discussion, which was great.
Yeah.
But Tony Khan is involved in this because, for those who don't know, Tony Khan back in the day, before he obviously was a multi-billionaire or whatever.
Before he was Tony Khan.
Yeah, before he owned a wrestling company. The guy's been a lifelong fan. People have actually have photos of him in the 90s, like an ECW show. Like, he's a lifelong fan. But it's been established, confirmed by him, that he was on the Death Valley Driver video review message board.
He started the most infamous. He's actually, we need to give him his credit. He is. This is what people don't understand when he goes into troll mode, and it's so effective because I think it's funny as an aside that old school like 90s style trolling is so effective on normies online. I think it's hilarious. Because you'll see people getting worked up, and it's just a guy doing like trolling 101 these days. It's so funny.
Yeah, which, as an aside, back in the day, the people who would mock Tony, especially WWE fans who would mock Tony Khan, it's like, oh, look, he's giving Claudio a hug. What kind of like chump is this guy giving his talent a hug? It's like, you have no idea. Tony Khan perpetuated the most infamous wrestling sleaze thread in message board history.
Yeah.
You have no idea who you're dealing with. Like, first of all, don't piss off Tony Khan. Like, you think he's like a softie? He's not. He survived like the message board troll.
He's a nice guy,
days.
But there's some claws in there, you know.
No, but like he was in. I mean, like DVDR back in the day, it got worse. It lightened up over time, but like you had to have a bit of a thick skin to exist there. And some of the other places online, like that's what I think people that want to act like he's a wimp or something. It's like, no, like he existed in that internet bubble where you had to like have a bit of a thick skin to survive.
Yeah, but he was on the message board, so he either interacted with Dean, probably did, or if not, he at least respected him.
Or he was influenced by his writing.
Yeah, so obviously years later, unfortunately, Dean passed away, but in tribute to him, like Tony Khan, I don't know he had anything to do with the show last year, but he has basically, he was signed on to assist them with this show, and I think they're doing a third show was already planned, and I think he's going to be assisting or associated with that too. But all that said, like he was involved in this, in that he lent talent, specifically like Ring of Honor talent, and some at least one AEW talent, and he obviously helped with the production because the production values did look great. This looked like kind of like a Ring of Honor tape,
and the sound,
like it was very well done. Yeah,
and the other thing I think. People that don't watch a lot of indie wrestling, like the sound mixing was top notch, which a lot of indie shows do not have good sound mixing.
No,
it's since you don't. The hardest thing about that is since you don't have control, like full control over whatever environment you're doing. All your stuff has to be portable. That when you roll it in, you don't have control over what the acoustics are, especially at an outdoor show. That's really hard. But in this case, it came out great. So.
Yeah.
It's a real step up.
Shad, last indie show I went to, which was at least a year ago, the mic, the live mic for the building died basically.
Yeah.
Or it was so low that you could not hear anyone. So literally, like people, we were like, "What? What do you like?" We weren't trying to do like the Steve Austin what. Whenever someone would talk, be like, "What? I can't hear you." Finally, like a couple of the wrestlers even just like they started shouting their promos and stuff like that because you could hear that better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked one show where for me to cut a promo on the mic, I had to stand over right by the timekeeper's table because the signal on the microphone, there was something interfering with it and you couldn't hear it if you got anywhere away from it. So I was basically cutting a promo with my back to everybody. And it still wasn't coming through super clearly. And part of that might have been me. But it was still... I mean, you don't know. Unless if you're not working the same building a lot, then you don't have any idea.
So then the other thing I want to really compliment, and we'll talk about it more as we go, but so our commentary team for this is someone well known to at least Matt and I. So Dylan Hales and John Mosley. If you've run in internet circles for a long time, you know Dylan Hales. If you've listened to a lot of podcasts, you've heard him. They are commentators for this, and I think they might have been one of the best commentary jobs I've heard in years.
I thought they did a really good job.
They did do a really good job.
Now, if you've heard Dylan talk, you can catch it if you know what he sounds like. You can hear him fighting that South Carolina accent every step of the way. The more I listened, I was like, he's very Scott Hudson in how he does things. Also, because Scott Hudson, if you hear him talk on a podcast, very thick Texas accent that he.
That's true. That's true because Scott Hudson had a great commentary voice, a great radio voice. And then he would, like you said, whenever you got him away from it. I remember finding a YouTube video where somebody asked him a question, and I mean, the thickest Texas drawl I have ever heard came rolling out of his mouth, and I was like, wow, that is one heck of a switch to flip.
Yeah, you'll hear it when Dylan gets a little excited. You'll hear it pop a little bit, and sometimes he'll speed up what he's saying. But I think that's to fight the accent.
Yeah,
but he did it. I thought they did a fantastic job. They really knew how to They just did it right. Like they reacted. They were excited. They knew not to step on stuff. They're really good at if you didn't have any idea who a guy was, they at least gave you reason to care about them.
Yes, they did a good job building up talent that you may have not seen before, and giving you background. And I'm like, I really appreciated that. I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was interjecting on you finishing your thought, but this was obviously a tribute show, so you're not gonna go into business for yourself being like, let's play heel and face commentators, whatever. So, but they did something which you brought it up. They really kind of hyped up everyone because some of these guys I hadn't really seen, or maybe I'd seen a little bit of whatever. But they really good job building up everyone, and it wasn't. Again, it's a tribute show, it's a different kind of environment or setting, but they weren't trying to be I'll play the heel. So they're trash this guy, whatever. And that would have been too hack and annoying. Save that, because I guess a lot of these guys, or some of these guys, were from the action wrestling promotion.
A lot of these are Georgia talent.
Yeah.
So I used to watch Wildside and NWA Anarchy. So a guy like Tank, if you watch those promotions, you know who Tank is because he was a staple there. Same with Reverend Dan Wilson. Those were guys that are staples in Georgia. But if you've never watched Wildside or a Georgia promotion, you probably don't know who they are. You might have seen Tank on a show here or there, but that would be it. And I just thought they did a really good job.
They did do a really good job.
They didn't try they did a good job of not being smarky either.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It'd be way too easy to get too inside baseball and do things. It's well, if you know, you know. It's that's not your job as a commentator. Your job as a commentator is if people are watching something to get commentary on what they're watching, you're supposed to be helping fill in the blanks or bring them up to speed. That's part of it.
Yeah. Now I do have one complaint other than the light thing that Matt brought up. So, the ring was kind of jank as fuck, and Shad said I actually picked out what was wrong. So the canvas on the mat is really weird and bunched up. It's it was loose, and so once you notice it, you're just watching it bunch around their feet and stuff, and you're just oh god, someone's gonna trip.
So my take on that was that what they had there, I didn't think there was anything wrong with the ring, but the canvas was one that moved more than you might expect. And I've
looked
tied the
thicker
canvas
than
down
I-
before.
It looked a little thicker than I'm used to too. I think that was the other problem.
I have tied the canvas down before on rings, and what happens is if you don't tie that sucker down real hard, it'll slide around a little bit and it'll bunch up as you move. But it's not generally a problem because you put your foot down, you press, and it might wrinkle up there, but it kind of flattens back out. If you haven't pulled that sucker really really tight, then it'll kind of shift a little bit. And you don't see that. You go to you go to AEW WWE show, you don't see that because it's set up differently. And so with this, like I said, I've tied one of these down before, and I had to go back and re-tie it because I got the whole way around the ring. The way that I was doing it was, the ring was set up post. You had the rails, and then the way that the one in this time is you had the rails, then you had cross beams that went into it, and then you put the 2x4s down on that. Well, I went all the way around, looping through the canvas, around the bottom rail, through the canvas, around the bottom rail, through the canvas, and it wasn't even. So I had to go by. I had to untie the whole thing and redo it, and there's no way to speed that process up.
Yeah.
You got to pull that son of a bitch and pull it real hard and real tight and do it every eyelet. But then you also don't want to pull it so hard that you start tearing the canvas.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And the thing with like WWE is, like, as much as we mock him, like, if you, like, for 20 years he did it wrong in WWE, like Bucky Beaver probably just knew, like, at a glance, like, hey, that canvas is screwed up, go do it again, until it looked right. So that's also why, like, AEW and WWE, like, those, like, you'd probably have like 5 camera people screaming at you that the canvas is.
Vectron put a good point in the chat. He said, in the heat, might it stretch or flex a little bit more. And that's a good point. And
this was shot really high quality film, so I bet if this was like old standard definition, you wouldn't notice. That's kind of a crime.
You never see it.
HD. But so let's get to our first match. So this is Rhino defeats one called Manders. Rhino's starting to show his age. I've had this conversation with Manders before. We've never covered him on the show. Manders is that kind of guy. I've seen him on numerous shows over the years, and like he just elicits a giant meh from me, always.
I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I've seen him in multiple shows before too, in multiple matches. So I'm aware of him. And I've seen him in better stuff than this match, but
I've never seen him in anything bad. I'll give him that. Like, I don't want to shit on him hard.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this a little bit, like, as we were watching it. He's fine. Like, and we're in an era where you have some amazing talents in the world who are putting out amazing stuff. And even on the indie scene, you'll have a few guys who are still just like clearly above other people, and he is fine, and that's okay. Like that, you can continue to have a long career in wrestling, and he's not bad. I'm not saying he's bad, but there's nothing particularly special about him, in my opinion. He does everything fine. I'm not even gonna say like, oh, he does things particularly well, like exceptional. Like there's nothing that really makes him stand out or he'd be exceptional. He doesn't even have like
it factor
necessarily like a unique gimmick.
Because like to give like a spoiler to compare to him. So this show is the first time I've ever seen Mad Dog Conley, and I was like minutes into that match, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy might be like my new favorite like wrestler, because he has it.
Yeah.
Like you can't quantify it with a guy like that, but it was like he has. Like, there's something about him, like, you're just drawn to him. Like, you want to see him again. I'm like, I want to see that guy wrestle again. Because I was like, we need to do his dog collar match with Demos because I want to see that guy wrestle again.
Between the, basically the 2 promos that each of them cut in the main event and then the main event, it was like 15 minutes. Like, total, everything. It wasn't anything crazy. So you got, like, 1 promo by Mad Dog Connolly and then, like, a 7-minute match. It wasn't even a long main event. And I'm kind of the same. I don't know. I would be like, oh, he's my new favorite wrestler, but he and within the 15-minute time frame, which wasn't even like just him for 15 minutes. Maybe like he had 8 minutes or 9 minutes of screen time with everything he did. I was like, I find this guy interesting. He's kind of compelling to me. I would like to see a little more. Whereas I've seen multiple One Called Manders matches, and at no point have I been like, I really want to explore more of One Called Manders. I'm kind of just like, if he's on a card, I'm like, okay, like I'm not seeking him out. But Mad Dog Connolly, I'm like, I'm intrigued. I perhaps want to see a little more of this guy.
I was like, I want to see Don Callis like leading him around with a dog collar in AEW, and like him being like their attack dog. Like that was my reaction to him. Was like
the thing that I was sitting on until we got to him was, this is like a modern reinvention and a little more literal of the Moondogs.
I was actually
with a little more, with more personal agency.
I was actually thinking like, oh, this is like modern Necro Butcher.
I wasn't gonna know Necro Butcher. We'll break him down when we get all the way to it. We'll get there.
I didn't want to spoil, but like that was my comparison. Was like, I've never had that reaction like One Called Manders, but like Mad Dog Conley, I was like, oh my god, like this guy has like it.
See, for me, watching Manders he was fine. He did some stuff that I liked. There was a spot on the outside where he had Rhino up against the ring post and went to lariat it, and Rhino moves. So, apparently his big weapon is out. But my problem is that he dropped off on selling it. Like, doing something like that to me is one of those, like, you're going to sell this the rest of the match spots. It's like Goldberg spearing the post at Halloween Havoc. This is going to mess you up for the rest of the match. And he did some, and then it just kind of dropped off as the match went on. I thought he sold fine. He moved around the ring well. All that kind of good stuff. It was just... I thought he was pretty all right. And that's about as far as I was going to go on it.
I think the most...
He was a good matchup for Rhino.
Yeah, he was. Because he's just big enough. He's just big enough to be believable against Rhino. I was going to say, I think the most memorable thing I've seen Manders do is they did a GCW show, and they brought out the Legos, which I'm going to say here, if you said you can either do thumbtacks or Legos, I'd be like, give me the thumbtacks.
I'd do the Legos.
But they threw the Legos out there, and they took his boots off while he was in the sea of Legos. So that's
there we go. That's the kicker.
Yeah. So that's the most memorable thing. So this match was fine as an opener. Rhino's a little limited now. Shad and I just saw him. That's been a couple years now. 4 years ago, but 3.5 years ago now. But he's starting to show his age.
He is, but it's understandable, and how can I best say this? I feel like he is starting to show his age, but he's compensating for it okay, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, he's not who he was, but he's not slowing down in a way that takes away from
the match.
Rhino. It's still Rhino, and you don't feel cheated.
He's not like when the Rolling Stones did the Super Bowl and it was the Who, and the guy tried to break his guitar on the stage and he was too old and he couldn't break it. I think that was the Who. That was the Who.
My go-to for embarrassing Super Bowl performances is always going to be the Black Eyed Peas, because that show sucked.
Well, I mean,
I didn't like the Black Eyed Peas much to start with, and then they went out there and just sucked.
They suck though, so I mean. That's really... So, we're going to go on to our next match here, which... so this is Los Desperados, which is Arez and Gringo Loco, against Coven of the Goat, which is Jaden Newman and Tank with Reverend Dan Wilson. So, I'm very familiar with Tank and Dan Wilson, so if you watched NWA Anarchy at all, so throughout the later parts of the aughts, they did this angle where he was a commentator at one point and he turns heel, and he forms this group called the Devil's Rejects, and they were this big faction, and they had this big cage match I wanted to do on the show one day against like the NWA Anarchy team, and they were that kind of team where they were like a third force, so even like the heels were against them and stuff. So so they come out. Dan Wilson, I think more managers should do this. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Sorry. So the guy who used to be the commentator, you mean like Dan Wilson?
Yeah, so Dan Wilson, the guy that was managing the other teams, introduced them. So he started in Wildside. He was a commentator, and then he became a manager.
So I appreciate that context, because when he came out, I was kind of like, why does this guy look like he's like cosplaying Rob Zombie? But if you're like, he's kind of doing this like devil satanic type gimmick, and
he's kind of like
feud where he's like Devil's Rejects.
He's kind of like a I wouldn't call him a hillbilly. He's kind of like a deep south, like kind of like a cult preacher kind of gimmick.
It's when you dig through the ditches and burn through the witches, but didn't make the payments on your Dragula.
But so he does like the hype man thing. He introduces his guys. I think more managers should do that, because like I said, if you don't know who those guys are, he gives you a little bit. Like he gives you stuff. Like he gives you tidbits to latch onto for those guys.
Yeah.
So this is I actually like this tag. It wasn't like, this tag isn't like, you're not going to remember it, but I thought this was like 4 vets doing like very solid work with each other.
Yeah, I thought it was like a decent little tag. Tank was big. He's a big dude.
He's old, too. He's like, yeah.
I thought he moved pretty decently for being like effectively morbidly obese and like in his 50s probably.
He did some stuff I really liked. Like what I liked that he did. So when he put guys in chin locks, he would sit on them. And I'm like, why don't more big guys do that? Like that's such a like, it adds so much to like such a simple move.
I thought Arez, who I'd never seen before, I thought he was pretty good.
I liked his little, he did this little thing where he ran up and he did this stomp like on Newman's back. I was like, that's a really cool spot.
He almost kind of reminded me of Rocky Romero a little bit. I thought he was pretty good.
I thought Newman was pretty good too.
Do he and Gringo Loco actually team up frequently? They do it in like GCW or someplace else?
I think they team in some places, yeah.
Okay.
I have to admit here, like Gringo Loco is not someone I go out of my way to see. Like it's nothing against him. He's not like, I don't know. I have a disconnect with him. He just doesn't do much for me as a worker.
No, I agree. I think he's fine. I've seen him have some decent or entertaining enough matches, but I'm not gonna be like, oh, if it's Gringo looking for someone, I'm like, oh, edge of my seat. It's gonna be like a 4-star classic, guys. It's like, no, but he's fine. Like, but I agree. He's nothing spectacular.
He's not like a turn the channel. He's like a net neutral to me.
Yeah.
He is, if I'm hearing you guys properly, he is solid and he is going to hold up his end. He's a carpenter. You know, he's gonna hold his end of it, and it's gonna be fine.
This match is like what you get out of him a lot. Like it's perfectly.
He's not like a world class carpenter, but he's not gonna blow his spots. He's gonna do what you ask him to do, and he's gonna execute what he can competently. But like, if you're wanting him to give you like a 4-star classic, unless it's like a trios, like I wouldn't expect that from him. But I mean, that's not every guy's role either.
So my takeaway for this match in watching it was that I saw 4 seasoned guys who knew what they were doing having a pretty good match, because they knew how to have a pretty good match without having to kill themselves to do it. Like, I could see the experience of how they were able to do this without without killing each other. If I was going to have a criticism, there were a few spots where they're doing the forearm across the back, and I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like, whenever I see a forearm across the back, I'm wanting to see, like, it's not just like flail your arm out there and hit them with it. It's like, bring that up and bring it down with something and make it pop whenever you hit with it. And I saw a few just kind of like, and I'm like, okay. But other than that, I had, no gripes. This was solid. And it was the second match on the card. That's what it needed to be, was solid. They're not going to burn other matches that are coming later on the show.
Yeah, and I would say knowing the card, I think keeping it in your pants a little bit was really good with the Cybernetico coming later.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what they did. And that was great. That was perfect.
And I have to say, so we're like 2 matches into this, and like I'm enjoying this show a lot. Like I'm gonna say it throughout, and like I was like, man, if every action wrestling show was like this, like I would be hardcore like a fan of their promotion.
Yeah.
Because nothing's like in this whole show, like nothing's bad. Like I think one of the matches is really good, but it's like this is like real easy to digest. They're not doing anything like super smarky. It's just good, solid work, like and fun. And I was just like, wow, like I really enjoyed this show from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I will say the next match is the low point. So the next match is Josh Woods with Tom Lawler defeats JD Drake. So I'll be diplomatic here. Like I feel bad for people that have to try and make Josh Woods seem like he has charisma and he's interesting. Like they should team him up with Blake Christensen and be like, just I don't know, just be a complete black hole of charisma.
But see, I feel like Blake Christian has gotten over, being a vanilla ginger and kind of a douche.
But like,
and he's a little excessive in my opinion, but like he at least is kind of at some point he decided like I'll just lean into it.
Yeah.
And it's actually worked for him. I kind of unfortunately agree with with you about Josh Wood. Josh Wood is one of those guys. It's like you're actually a technically competent worker. I just don't find you interesting at all.
I would like Josh Wood's like this paint over here drying has more charisma than you do.
I think if I heard correctly, Josh Woods and Tom Lawler did not have a match here because I think Tom was injured. I think is what happened. So I don't know why Tom Lawler, came out with a bucket or anything, but
he's supposed to be his corner man because Josh Woods is doing like a faux MMA. He's one of those guys. He's like what's the other guy? Josh Briggs. He's like that guy. He's one of those shooty workers that has no charisma. And I think it's made worse because he was with JD Drake, who has charisma. And I was like, well, this match wasn't totally terrible. And I was thinking over, it's like, oh, it's because JD Drake did cool stuff. And that's what saved it.
The thing that has stuck out to me in recent years was always the discussion about, who's the guy with the heaviest chops in wrestling today, and people are always like, it's JD Drake, and I was like, is it really? And as it turns out, apparently it is. They're talking about it, and they're like, yeah, this is apparently, like, they don't make a big noise, but they apparently he just beats the shit out of you with his chops. Like, that's like the worst combination of how it should work, but okay, that's fine.
I miss him in AEW, I'll be honest.
I think he's still doing Ring of Honor stuff.
Yeah, I know.
I saw him live at Ring of Honor. It was before Collision I saw. And he came out, and for some reason that night I was having a blank on him. Like, oh, JD, I'm like, can I place that? And then Workhorseman. Oh, okay. And I saw him. I mean, dude went up and over beautifully for a sunset flip power bomb and all kinds of great stuff. And I was just like, there's a reason.
I think he was in the Wingman too, wasn't he?
He was in the Wingman. That was a lot of fun. That was like when it was still a thing, like an AEW Dark, like
Yeah.
mainstay. Who was it? It was him and Caesar
Peter
Boney.
Avalon,
Peter Avalon.
Ryan Nemeth.
Ryan Nemeth, yeah. I think it was just the four of them, but
I think there was another guy maybe.
well, Caesar
Bonini.
Bonin, I think I forget.
He was like an
Bonini,
NXT guy that they were kind of working with.
Yeah, he I don't know if he's still with AEW. I think he might be kind of related some way. I saw, oh God, I forget who it was. Someone last year, somebody was like returning to the ring, and they were like working.
Yeah.
With he, I think maybe still does behind the scenes stuff. Tony Khan, I think, actually helped him. I think get his wife like her green card or something like that. I mean, I'm sure like when it's all said and done, you'll hear probably years from now, you hear stories of Tony Khan doing nice things for some of his talent.
Yeah.
Because he actually, as you said, Brad, he takes the idea of the talent, he takes like an actual sports franchise perspective to things where it's like, I'm going to pay people what I think they're worth and not like pennies on the dollar. He'll pay them like a good wage. And then, he'll actually treat them fairly and treat them well. Is it perfect? No, but I mean, I think his comparison to the big company, like,
yeah.
But point is like,
I mean, even Vince showed more humanity towards the workers than Triple H does.
Oh, and them and TKO, not to give Triple H a pass, but the entire corporate culture there, of which he is part of, so he's not.
Yeah, but it's
like giving him a break,
but like, it's a him thing though, because like, as much as you can complain about Dana White, like Dana White still has, like, will say to a fighter like, you need to stop doing this because you're gonna you're gonna fuck yourself up. Like Dana White like will still tell guys, like he did it with Chuck Liddell, and he still does it, where he's like, no, you need to stop. Like, you're either going to stop or I'm going to like release you because you shouldn't be doing this anymore. Like, he shows way more humanity towards his talent than Triple H does.
Mm-hmm. Bringing it back to JD Drake, I like JD Drake. The reason why part of the reason I think we haven't seen him is because both he and his partner in the Workhorseman, Anthony Henry, they've both been injured. I know Anthony Henry was injured for a while, and I think he's either finally healthy or is about to be.
Can I just say too, I loved his fuckboy attire for this show.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how we would describe how he was dressed? He was like a California fuckboy.
Mm.
For Drake?
No, for Henry.
No, Anthony Henry.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, I can get behind that.
So I would say this is my least favorite match. It was all JD Drake, but Josh Woods wins because why would we have the problem is JD Drake makes people look too good, so he loses all the time. And that's a complaint we're going to carry over to our next match, which I actually think of the singles matches, I like this one a lot. So this is the Beast Mortos defeating Slim J. Slim J, if you don't know who Slim J is, he's been around forever. He was in Ring of Honor and AEW for a bit with the Trustbusters.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think it's funny he's lasted as long as he did because, so if you want to know why Slim J, he pretty much started off as an Eminem ripoff in his younger days. And he did some early ROH stuff, but he's been like a Georgia mainstay forever. So if you were to watch Action Wrestling, he wrestles there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's your wrestling, Brad?
Oh, Beast.
Oh, you said that. I'm sorry.
Beast, the Beast.
I had a
Mortos.
moment where he's like, "Did he say that?" Yes, you
Yeah.
did. He said that.
So they had a fun little match because you know as soon as you see him like, oh, Mortos is gonna squish him like a bug, but Mortos gave him a lot.
Yeah, that's kind of where I didn't like this match. Like, I guess because I don't have the history of seeing Slim J, so he doesn't. Not that I don't think he's not competent or good. I just don't have the buy-in to him. It's not like I've seen him, working different promotions or a promotion I watched back in the day. So all I've seen of him really is basically like kind of like the Trustbuster stuff on AEW. So I don't really like. He's almost like a glorified jobber essentially. So, I mean, I get you're not gonna just have a squash match on a tribute show like this, but I also did feel like Beast Mortos like gave him too much, because it's like I don't care about Slim J, no offense. So you could have just had him, could have had Beast Mortos like just squash him like a bug, and I would have been perfectly fine with it.
I think he gave him too much, but I think they were smart about it because it was usually Slim J outsmarting him or taking advantage of the gaps he got. Like I liked when he pretty much just jumped on his back and like put him in a chokehold just because that's all he could do.
Yeah. From watching this, I appreciated that Slim J was the kind of person that he is a step above what you would expect to see at a lot of indie shows. I can understand why he may have never broken through, but I'm watching this going, I appreciate how good this dude is. But who is he out there with? We have to call a pig's butt pork. What's going to happen? And I get it was something I got really frustrated being a Mick Foley fan back in the days, because Foley would just get his ass kicked for like 90% of the match and then get some offense in. And I'm like, dude, could you? I guess that was the gimmick, but it's like, dude, could you like, I don't know, win some, please, or like beat somebody's ass a little bit?
Scott Hall was bad about that too. I thought Scott Hall often, like, especially in WCW, there were a lot of times I thought he gave guys too much when he didn't need to.
Well, I think
Hall
was doing it because he wanted to. There were some people's careers he just wanted to advance. He's just like, no, man, I'm not. Like, Hall was not insecure like so many people that were on that roster.
And especially with Scott Hall, and we talked about this before. I think Brad, I think you talked about it. But if you actually, before his passing, unfortunately, when you hear him talk about wrestling with guys like Steve Austin, he would occasionally obviously do Steve Austin's podcast, and they would just nerd out about wrestling. Scott Hall loved wrestling. He loved it.
Yeah, because there was one. They're just like, there was a pause, like, so Austin, like, best drop kicks, and they just start like listing guys off because they're like, oh, Brad Armstrong, like, Bob Holly.
Yeah. That's the unfortunate thing about Scott Hall, is he had a lot of demons, and he. I don't know if you would say he overcame them. I guess in a sense maybe he did, but I mean life caught up with him, unfortunately.
Yeah. Came
probably
up
the
with
consequences
the crow gimmick.
Yeah. But he's a dude who loved wrestling, and how can you? Because like when it's all said and done, you hear him like sit down and talk about wrestling. He would talk like a just nerd, like about that, like just. So he would make guys' careers probably because, I mean, he was part of the clique, so there was a little bit like sabotage. But other guys, it's like, because he probably respected them, respected the business, thought it'd be good for the business if he helped put them over. But turning it back to Beast Mortos,
he did Jericho big, solid when he lost to Jericho. Because I think even Jericho credits him with that.
I remember watching that match, and I'm like, well, Jericho's going to get killed here. And then Jericho pulled it out, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Hall, the thing about Scott Hall is he was really good at putting people over, and Terry Funk warned him about it. Terry Funk's statement was, don't show people you're too good at putting people over because that's all you're going to do.
Yeah, that's
And so Scott Hall, from what I can tell, Scott Hall would pick his shots to do that with. And so he didn't do it a lot, but he did it when he thought he could make something out of it.
Yeah, I know Sassy Steffi. She wrestled, and Matt probably knows who she is. She was in Shimmer. She worked in like the late aughts into I think like 2018 or so. But she had told me once, she was like, yeah, I get booked a lot because I'm good at making people look good.
Yeah.
And she said, so everyone wants to book me, but I always lose.
I think that Scott Hall probably had the best wrestling mind of anybody in the clique. He may not have been like the best performer up there, but he was the one that, for wrestling as a whole, like got it. You know, Shawn Michaels knows how to get over and put on stellar matches. Kevin Nash understood how to treat it like a business and get paid. Scott Hall understood how to improve the show he was on, generally.
Yeah.
And then Triple H carried their bags.
He got them coffee sometimes. Give him his due.
Yeah. Carry the drugs, right? Turning it back to Beast Mortos. Beast Mortos is almost a little bit in that vein where it's like he's really, really good at putting people over. I almost feel sometimes, because I've thought about it, like I almost feel the gimmick is awesome, but I also feel like the gimmick hampers him. Like you're not going to put like your world title on Beast Mortos.
Well,
Like
I think the gimmick is a double-edged sword though, because
but
the
yeah,
thing with
that's what I'm getting at. It is a double-edged sword.
Well, I was gonna say the other problem with the gimmick though is if you can job him, he's gonna get his heat back because he looks so fucking cool when he comes out. Like people are gonna react to him. So like you don't have to really protect him because like he's so unique looking that like people are gonna react to him. So like what's the point of like
Yeah. The other thing though that I feel like I'm understanding about him and just watching him is that he's gonna get over again just because he's really, really good.
He is.
Like he's a good worker in both respects. Like he's a good worker in that, you know, he can make himself look good, like the stuff he does in school, but he's a good worker in that he can sell and he can make his opponent look like $1 million. I don't think it was an accident in the last like year when they were trying to get hologram established and over with the AEW fans, that they had a bunch of hologram like Beast Mortos matches. It's like, yeah, they want to establish that these two guys can go, and hologram won those matches really. So you made him look good at it, but Beast Mortos made him look fantastic. And you talk about it being a double-edged sword. I don't know what Tony Khan's going to do with the faction, but I think the LFI with Beast Mortos and part of it, I think it's a good place for him. And I actually think that they should do more with LFI. I think that they're really cool. I think he should do a lot with them. I can understand if they don't, only because I think, well, I like him, is kind of, he seems a little temperamental, so I could see where sometimes he and his brother kind of could, Drilistico can kind of shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, they kind of got iced for a while because at least Drilistico took like liberties with some jobbers. So they kind of got punished that way. At least that's the rumor.
No, they seem like they're habitual line steppers.
Yeah.
So just Mortos fascinates me so much. It's like you said, he looks so cool, and the guy's obviously good, that I sat there while I was watching that match and thought to myself, like, if I was going to help somebody make make an indie gimmick, I mean, obviously you're not going to be able to do the full, like, Mortos style mask, but if I was going to do something with somebody to do that, what kind of thing would you do? And that's been ping-ponging around in my head. I don't have an answer for it yet. But the idea of having this, your gear is a gimmick that looks so damn cool. Like, how would you parlay it? And then, honest to God, I kind of think that Mortos is getting the low key. I call it the swerve build, not because I think it's going to be that high or the ceiling's up there or anything. But what did Swerve do for 2-3 years? Swerve put in the work. Swerve had wins. He took losses, that sort of stuff. He didn't complain about it. He went out there and did a good job with what he had. And I'd swear that's probably... It may not get that high for Mortos, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, if we don't have anything else going on, what can we do right now? It's like, well, then we're going to do the Mortos push. And, we're going to have, like, plush Beast Mortoses at the merch stand and that sort of stuff. And, do a breakout thing and have him win the TNT title. And it's this thing that he's like, oh, have you seen this guy? He's really cool. And he comes out here and he has good I could see that happen.
So this was a fine match, I thought. It was a fun match. So
yeah.
We're going to go into a match I didn't like so much next, though. So this is for the Pure Wrestling title. So this is Lee Moriarty defending against Matt Mako. So I think Shad's going to echo some of these sentiments. So this is a Pure Wrestling match. So the idea is you get 3 rope breaks. It's kind of to encourage technical wrestling, and you get your rope breaks deducted for like closed fist punches. But so that would work if you're going to do like a really scientific match. So this kind of developed in UWFI, which was like very mat-based shooty style. And it makes sense in that aspect. But this match, I did not like it because they're doing flippy stuff and then like they're getting put in submission holds that like probably they've never submitted to in their entire career, and then they're desperately trying to get to the ropes to, burn through their rope breaks.
The thing about this I liked is when they said, it's the no closed fist thing, and Moriarty shifted to just open palm strikes for it. Cool, I like that. I can look at these two guys and say they are obviously talented technical wrestlers. I just don't particularly care for this format. I understand that the rope breaks is meant to create drama. As they tick away, you're losing. You're losing out on a safety you might have and that sort of stuff. But I'm just like, what? I look at this and it's supposed to be for, technical map-based stuff and that sort of. But I mean, what would stop somebody from, being a shit kicker and just not throwing punches, throwing forearms instead, and just beating the snot out of people for it? Like, the structure of it, I get what they're going for. I understand who it's for. It's for people that love mat wrestling stuff. That ain't really me. I can appreciate it, but I don't love it. And I'm just kind of like they did fine, but this is not this is one ring of the circus that's not for me.
So people always complain, a constant complaint online. For some reason, only about AEW, never about WWE, even though they have more. But people are always like, "Oh, AEW has too many belts," and they have a lot of belts between AEW and Ring of Honor.
You cannot make that complaint about AEW after WWE introduced all those women titles, and they have like 50 titles now. And
oh yeah, there's more titles in WWE. Like there is, like even beyond the main roster. They have we discussed this on the show before. They have NXT. They have the NXT North American Men's Championship. They have the NXT Women's title. I think they have the NXT Women's North American Championship. Yeah. They have
NXT Women's Tag
men's tag titles, women's tag titles.
They have that Heritage
That's
Cup
like already
now.
like what, 6?
Yep. They have
Heritage Cup.
They have 3 speed titles. Then they have like the
3 speed titles.
They have,
they do. They have a women's speed title.
Oh wait, they don't have a tag, so they have 2 speed titles. So
They also have the WWE ID men and women's thing. They have
those don't
Evolve
count.
Championship. It's insane. But
And I do
I
agree
preface all that
AEW
by saying
has too many titles. They need to keep the ROH belts off of AEW TV and it would be fine. But they do have too many titles. It's just WWE's way worse.
I agree. They do agree. I agree on all of that. But since I preface this by basically saying people complain about AEW having too many titles, they do have too many titles. And one of the titles they should get rid of, no offense, is the Ring of Honor Pure title. I think that was fine, kind of, when Ring of Honor was still an indie doing stuff. Like, you could kind of sell it as like, we have the world title, we have our TV title, but it was kind of stretching it to a pure title, but you could kind of be like, oh, we're trying something different, like with pure rules, etc. Okay. I don't think that now they need it. Like, it's one of those things that's like, you get a guy like Lee Moriarty who's talented and you're using him on Ring of Honor, and I don't think you shouldn't, but it's like, you're almost just kind of giving him a title. It's like, well, you're a technically gifted wrestler, so you can kind of do those type of matches. And, here's a belt to kind of like, you get hyped because, you're a champion, etc. But I don't think they need the pure title. I don't hate the pure rules, but it's also like, this, to me, it's not necessary. Like, I don't need this. Like, and I get that it has kind of its basings in like UWFI. It's like, I can just search that out if I want to see that. I'm not like clamoring. I'm not so much, and nobody was ever, UWFI doesn't exist really anymore. So it's not as if like, oh, this took the world by storm, and you're still seeing that. Like, it's kind of, it's.
Well, I mean, MMA killed it.
It's niche upon niche.
Well, I mean, like Pancrase and stuff, and stuff like that. But I mean, I think what really kind of ended it was MMA happened. So why do you want to watch shoot MMA when there's real MMA?
It was a gimmick in a time when it stood out, but I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm not here for it. I don't want to pass any other judgment.
It's just it doesn't. I think the problem I have with it is it does not go too far. It doesn't go far enough to differentiate itself. Like, if I was doing it, like throwing someone out of the ring would be losing a rope break, because my point would be keeping them to a completely scientific match. Like, if you're going to set up what's supposed to be a scientific division, go whole hog, completely discourage flippy shit and like anything that's not like working holds and stuff like that. Like, that's my biggest issue with it. Like, I'm not even saying that would be my particular preference of a style, but I think that would at least make it stand out more, because this was just like, oh, this is just like the match they would work anyway with some strings attached to it.
Regardless, I think this particular match was fine. This is the one where the lighting issues really came through. The LED boards throwing the different colors on depending which camera was going. And I mean, I saw it, but it didn't really take me out of the match. I was just like, oh, look at that. I mean, it's a hazard of doing an outside show. It's what's going to happen.
So up next we have the Cybernetico. So I'm going to read off our teams here. So we have Blue Panther, Hologram, Neon. I don't know how they pronounced it. Neon.
Neon. Yeah.
Valente
Neon.
and Virus against
Valiente. Is it? I always thought I heard it is Virus when it was
Virus.
CML, but
so then we have on the other side we have Averno, Dr. Cerebro, Euphoria, Volador
Jr.
Yeah, and oh fuck, I even looked.
Zelha.
I made
Spanish is bad at times.
I made a mental.
I'll butcher English, so I don't.
So my first comment on this is, So Blue Panther's like 65 years old, and that dude still is light on his feet and has agility. And now Virus is 54, and that dude, I was like, oh yeah, this guy's really good at what he does. And even
I actually, yeah, I wrote down in my notes that Blue Panther is like he's 64 and he's not he's not as spry as you expect him to be, well, as you would want him to be, but he still moves really well. He's not Sting doing like dives off balconies, but he still moves pretty well. Fun fact, Brad. In August of 24, so not even a year ago, close to a year ago, Panther had a match with 75-year-old El Satanico.
nice.
I can't imagine that was good, but
No.
not for lack of Blue Panther trying. He can still work, as we saw in this match.
And some of these guys are like like if you watch Lucha for a long time, like Volador Jr. like has been around forever.
Volador.
Yeah, Volador.
Mm.
Like a lot of these guys have been around for a while, and so I was like, okay, well they're on like this show. Like I kind of was like, they're probably gonna dog it. And like no, they came out and they were busting their asses to like make a good match for people.
Oh yeah. For some slight backstory for people who don't know what a Torneo Cybernetico is, that type of match, it's basically two teams of a certain amount of people, and it's like an elimination match, and the two teams face each other. There could be different rules. This was like you started off like guys like when one guy would come in, another guy would tag out. I think that was really more the showcase. Sometimes there's really strict rules where it's like let's say there's 5 guys, like there's a specific order, so it has to go in that order. Like you can't just like tag a different person. You have to go in the order. It could be wacky, whatever, but you have 2 groups of teams and they fight each other, and you have obviously like interesting combination potentially, but it's an elimination match, so you keep working almost like Survivor Series, old school series style, until you have a winner. There's even sometimes with Cyberneticos, even people of the same team, let's see like 2 people like survive on the same team. Sometimes it's in like, all right, well now you 2 like compete against each other, so it's one winner of the match. This wasn't like that, obviously, but it's a really fun match. Brad, Chikara used to do this type of match.
Yeah.
Every year. They would do a big Cybernetico. I actually saw this. I've seen one, not a Chikara one, but I saw one live a few years back. God, 5 years back at this point. Virginia Championship, or Virginia Pro Wrestling doesn't even exist anymore. But I saw a Cybernetico match, and it was really, really fun. These are always really fun because a lot of stuff can happen. But yeah, they did. You're expecting I was kind of expecting are these guys, luchadors, just gonna dog it? And they didn't. And I actually felt when they first started out, and they were kind of just like, it's kind of like a little showcase, like first 10 minutes, just like you see the guys, get introduced to the guys, like a showcase, and then the elimination started, and I really thought to me it kicked in a different gear. I love this match. It's a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, there's some spots I noted I liked. So there's a point where Averno and Volador get Blue Panther in like this double kind of submission hold, kind of this double leg lock, but they're kind of on their backs, and a hologram just jumps on top of both of them to try and pin them. I thought that was really original. And then I noted that Neon on one of the dives almost ate shit because he caught his foot on the middle rope, but he still made it. But I was like, oh, that could have gone really bad.
Mm.
And then Blue Panther, I like this one where Blue Panther did this, I'm coming through the middle rope. It's like, haha, just kidding. I'm going to do a somersault, splash off the apron. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Because he really sold it too. And then he's like, just kidding.
Yeah.
This whole thing was just a fantastic, let luchadors go do luchador things, and they just go out there and kill it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, this was so much fun. I actually thought it was paced really well. Everyone kind of got the opportunity to showcase their stuff. And specifically, I actually thought they highlighted the two people that they should have highlighted. They got let them shine, and they booked the match really well so that they would. The two people, of course, were Blue Panther because he's a legend, so you give him like opportunity to shine. But the other guy, the guy that they're obviously trying to get over, which is really good. I mean, this is really like you see where AEW and Ring of Honor are like they're at the influence, but Hologram's obviously an AEW star. He looked fantastic in this match. And looking at this, I was like, you know what? I mean, he's not that he hasn't been featured, and he actually I think has been recently has been injured, so he's been off like for a few weeks, not like months, but a little bit of time. He's been kind of off, but I feel like they have something special with him. He's not obviously like a Rey Mysterio Jr. level.
No.
Obviously, Rey's one of the best of all times, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like in WCW in the '90s, you knew Rey was special, and you knew like they had something with Rey. But I feel like they do have something with him in the sense that he's over, but I think that they could make him a star. I feel a guy like Bandito has more upside. Bandito is a guy that they could build up to even be like, you can be an upper mid card if they want him to. Like, he's fantastic. But I think Hologram, there's something special there. Like he could be a solid like mid card guy. Right now, what you're seeing in AEW with guys like Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight, like two guys who just came, but they kind of they've been elevated, and you can put them and have them just in any sort of random match on Dynamite or Collision in a week, and they will have fantastic, fun matches with people. I feel like you can kind of like move Hologram into all too. I think aren't they doing like a tag team now? Hologram. I think it's Hologram and Commander.
Yeah.
I think.
Because he was teaming with Gravity, and I think Gravity got hurt.
Isn't Gravity like Bandito's brother?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think Gravity's signed though. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know that for a fact. But yeah, I haven't seen him on AEW TV in a long time, so I'm assuming that.
I would say AEW, though, shockingly, out of nowhere, really, the depth they added this year has been, like, shocking. Especially for all the talk about how WWE was going to, like, block them out from all this talent. And I feel like once they started getting rid of the older guys and started filling the card out with like younger talents they brought in, I feel like it's really started to snap back together for them, because like suddenly AEW feels really fresh on the undercard, like really fresh, like new guys, like younger talent, guys that weren't in WWE, and I think it's been really good for them this year.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Chad.
I was going to say the other thing that AEW's been really good about is just going back to throwing just downright fun stuff on the card. It the same genetic material as the Cybernetico. It's like, your AEW party match where they're like, hey, $400,000 online. Eat 4v4. The winner gets $100,000 each. Just go have a match, guys. Here's who's going to win. That's fun as hell. These guys get to go out there. They get to do cool, fun stuff. They get to come up with goofy ideas to do and that sort of thing. And then turning Bandito loose to do, like, here, what I'm going to say is one of the best things Chris Jericho has done in the last year was his feud with Bandito. He put out the bounty. He's going after Bandito. None of it works. He goes after Bandito himself. They have the showdown. Like, all that stuff increased Bandito's stock in a big way. Like, they're leaning into things that they should be leaning into now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But this is fantastic. I thought this was a really strong match.
Chad, to your point, I actually loved the whole. First off, I love kayfabe. Dusty Rhodes taking it to the
pay win the match, yeah.
Where in kayfabe it's like, whoever the winning team wins like $100,000 each, $400,000 for the team. Mm-hmm. I thought that was it's so like it's old school kayfabe thing, but it was fun and it allowed them to do fun stuff.
Yeah.
Where each guy on the teams would be like, "What are you gonna do with the money?" It's like, and the best, of course, was Mark Briscoe being like, "I'm gonna diversify my portfolio," and it's like the dumb, crazy chicken farmer is like all of a sudden it's like being the most financially responsible.
Yeah, he's
Whereas
being erudite with his
Steve-Ball
money.
Mike Bailey's like, yeah, Steve-Ball Mike Bailey's like, I'm gonna buy a pair of shoes. It's like, come on, like,
I used to like
and
that.
why look, sit on your counter there and so you never wear them.
I used to like that, like when before Danhausen was in AEW, and like I think he was doing his like vlogging. Someone had asked him like, "Why do you wrestle?" He's like, "Because Danhausen wants to be rich. I want to have a gold house and a rocket car."
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's good motivation if you want a rocket car.
Yeah. And it is I'm about certain that if Cody still worked for AEW, those matches would be called pay window matches. Which, frankly, I think would be a great name regardless. But it is something that's fun. It gets people you want to see on TV doing things you want to see them doing.
Well,
but it doesn't do anything to screw with, you can either use it to build ongoing storylines or you can not worry about it because this thing's all about the money. People get on TV without having to be involved in title feuds. It's just a good move all around.
Well, and I think it harkens back, like you're talking about, like the Dusty Rhodes thing, but we were watching something and I really lamented, like, I kind of miss when pro wrestling was weirdos fighting over money. Where it was like weirdos, hillbillies, and like criminals committing acts of violence for money. Like I kind of miss that.
People, well, I mean, they kind of dropped it again, but people were like always talking about like the rankings in AEW. It's like, I don't care about the rankings. Like, I mean, yeah, I get like ideally you should care about the rankings, but, and I remember, I started watching with WCW. So I remember back when I was starting watching like 91, 92, that WCW would kind of do that. Like, here's the top 10. It's like, so yeah, maybe it has maybe ranking discussion has like a slight place in my heart. But I love the whole kayfabe aspect of like the winner gets the winner share of the purse. Whoever wins gets more money. So that, because it's such a simple, and obviously it's kayfabe's dead, whatever. But we're all buying it. We're also buying into like Hangman, for example. Hangman sort of really, because one guy invaded his home, one guy like burned down his family home, like whatever. Like there's so much you buy into that it's bullshit, but you buy into it because that's part of like the fun. I don't read a comic book thinking it's real. I don't go watch like there's a new Superman movie. I'm not gonna go into it being like, what do you mean it's not real? Oh, I can't believe. I'm not nitpicking. It's like, oh, look, Superman's like fighting a giant monster. It's total bullshit. They don't exist. Neither does guy flying around.
Yeah.
Like, it's, you buy into certain things. So why can't I just buy into being like, oh, these two guys are fighting and they really want to win because the winner gets more money.
But I mean, like it's not
that's
that
as
hard
simple as it can be.
It's not that hard to believe though if you watch like UFC and when they do like the payouts after the shows, like you'll see like, okay, this guy got 25 because he got a 25 show pay and he got 25 for winning. So he got double his money because he won. Like I don't see why that doesn't like that wouldn't like you can't go back to wrestling and do that because you see it, and like I think boxing's the same way.
Yeah, and even if you don't want to do specifically, like if I win, I get like the winner share of the purse. If you want to be specific like that, you could be like, well, if I win, I'm going to become a bigger star, and being a bigger star in this business means I get more money, like I get more endorsements, etc. Like you could even do it that way, like go obliquely, and it makes perfect sense. And it's like, yes, it's kayfabe, but
or even like in UFC again, I'm just comparing it because I think that's like the closest analog to wrestling. Like the fight of the night bonus, the submission of the night bonus, or the knockout of the night bonus. Like, hey, I want to fucking punch that motherfucker's head off because I want like whatever that extra bonus is for knocking some guy out.
Yeah. I think that I think the rankings have a place as another tool you can use, but the thing that happens if you lean on them too hard, then it's kind of like, come on, dude. We know it's a work. But if it's something that it's something else you just kind of add into the mix, then it makes it easier to buy into the story that's happening, if that makes sense. Like,
It shows thought.
okay, yeah, it shows thought, and I'm not saying that everything needs to be, it's all about the rankings, but it's one more thing you can add into it. So, getting rid of them entirely means you're taking something out of your toolbox. Why would you want to take something out of your toolbox? But if you use the same thing all the time, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and you don't want to take a hammer to something. So just mix it in, which I feel like they're doing better about right now.
Well, and I think the rankings were good, and I think having them would be fine. But I think where they've kind of you don't need the rankings as much anymore, and which I think is a fantastic thing they've done, is the eliminator matches. I think that's where they've really got something right.
Because I like them, but people are disingenuously dumb about them. Or be like, well, why are they having this match? It's like they don't understand the concept. It's like you have the eliminator match, and if the challenger wins, then that sets up like a title match, and it's very simple. I mean, look at like Japan, like Japan and other Japanese promotions would do this all the time, especially like in the G1 or something like that. You get like you have the champion competing in the G1, and they like run the table, and then one guy like wins against them.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my god, he beat the champion. And does that mean the champion lost the title? No, like it's just a G1 tournament match. What does it do? Oh, it sets up a challenger in the future potentially. And you would see this in American wrestling all the time too, where it's like, maybe a lot of times they cheap out and do it like in a tag match, but if it doesn't have to be, it could be just like a singles match, like champion walk out is like, oh whatever, I'm gonna match with this guy, and then the guy beats him, and it's like all of a sudden you set up a challenger. So, like I like the concept, but people are dumb. It's like, why are we having this match?
When I
always get it, they don't get it.
When I put champions in tournaments like that, like Japan does, so my thing was when I'd set that like kind of G1-ish tournament, I was like, okay, so if you win, you get a title shot at the champion, and you get like $250,000. Now, if the champion runs the table and wins his own thing, he gets $500,000.
I think the thing that I like the most about, if I was going to do it, I would not call them eliminator matches. I would say that I like the proving ground match. Just because it feels to me that proving ground kind of says more of what it is in the name of it. The challenger has a match with the champion. If the challenger wins, he gets a shot. The thing that the eliminator adds is, in an eliminator match, if you lose the match against the champion, you can't challenge that champion again. Okay, I get it. And that's why it's called an eliminator match, but that's extra steps to it.
Well, I always took it as just a way too, because you could have two contenders. Like, okay, well, you're not the number one contender, but hey, you number 4 and 5 contenders. Here, you have this eliminator match, and the one of you that wins, you're in line for a title shot. It's kind of like how I always viewed it, kind of as a concept when they started doing it.
Okay. It just feels like it's got extra steps in it that don't need to be there. I think if it had a different name, and I can't come up with a good name at the time, it might flow a little better, but it's established as what it is, so there's no point in trying to push that back.
Because where proving grounds you kind of get in trouble with is like, ROH used to use that, but that was like people trying to get contracts with the company.
I thought a proving grounds match was if you beat the champion, then you get a title shot match.
Well, that's what it is in AEW, but like back when ROH like would have a proving grounds tournament, and that would be like young guys were guys that had like worked sparingly with the company.
Okay. I took that as, I remember Eddie Kingston saying it to somebody as, okay, we'll make it a Proving Grounds match.
I think you should.
And
I think what how I would do it if I had that concept is, you can do it with like you can have like two, we'll say bubble contenders, like a 4 and a 5 contender wrestle each other for a title shot, or
mhm.
if the champion wants to do the defenses themselves, then the champion could do it. Like, because I would like the idea of like, you have that thing, and like Toni Storm would be notable in that she always wants to partake in her eliminator matches.
Yeah, God, I really want a good name for it, but I'm just not.
They took it from UFC. That's where it came from.
Oh, that if you beat the, okay, that's where the. Okay,
Well,
it's got
I think
a background
UFC
to it.
was. I think UFC was like for fringe contenders to move up.
Okay.
Because you wouldn't have your champion do it in UFC because they could they could bust their hand and be out for a year because
Oh,
they
well,
get
yeah,
a
that
medical
would do it.
suspension. Because I think that's one of the things, just as a weird aside for a second. It's like, I think people don't understand, like, they complain when people don't like fight a lot in UFC. I was like, well, like, yeah, like they didn't fight for another 6 months because they won their fight, but then they got medically suspended for 6 months, so they can't.
Yeah, I mean, these fights are not ones that you go into and you just come out fresh as a daisy. You're gonna get tore up.
Yeah. Because you might think you're okay, and then the medical board looks at you like, nope, you can't wrestle. You can't fight for 6 months.
Yeah. You got to recover and that sort of stuff.
Yep. So now we're going to head to our main event here. And we kind of did a spoiler here, but so this is a dog collar match. This is...
Well, hold on. Before we do that,
Yeah.
one thing that was really awesome. So after the tour, the separate.
Oh, I forgot about this part. We got
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Who came out? Like some music plays and it was Fly the Valkyries. Who was it? None other than Bryan Danielson. And he goes and he raises Hologram's hand, and he embraces Blue Panther. And then you think it's like, oh, it's Bryan Danielson. Oh, what a surprise! Like he's on the stage thanking them. No, he gets in the ring and basically cuts a promo.
Well, he was...
And
I have a sneaking suspicion, like, they were like, hey, you want to do this? He's like, I can watch Blue Panther live, because that's one of the things he said, is this is the first time he's ever gotten to see, other than wrestling him, like, watch Blue Panther wrestle.
Yeah, he cuts a promo, and actually it was awesome. Like, his speech was great. He cut a promo basically putting over like an indie wrestling. Obviously, he started in indie, but he was extolling his virtues. Like, it's great to watch indie wrestling. Everyone should go watch it. And then talking also about how giving tribute to Dean. Like, Dean was saying Dean was someone who loved professional wrestling and hyped up indie wrestling. Even gives this whole story about how when he was fired back when he was part of NXT, the original NXT.
No. This is his first release, from Memphis Championship Wrestling is what he was talking about.
Oh, really? I thought it was when he was
No, he's
he
talking
got
about
fired for.
No, he's talking about his original release.
Oh, wow, okay. So that's even deeper. But he's saying that Dean was one of the people who was championing him and championing him with this guy's a fantastic wrestler. Because again, Dean knew, Dean was a student of the game for not being a wrestler himself. He really loved wrestling, but he gave props to Dean. And then he also was talking about how, of course, loving indie wrestling, but also talking about just being a fan and how Blue Panther is his favorite luchador of all time, loves him, and that he was excited because he was able to watch Blue Panther work live.
Yeah.
He said in his promo, his speech, he was saying I was watching with my head poked out behind the curtain, watching the match, and he just loved it because because that's the thing. Bryan does love, right? But if he never steps foot in the ring again, that's a guy who's always going to be in the orbit of wrestling because he loves it. He's dedicated his life to it. But he's also a fan, and I believe him when he says he loves Blue Panther. He talks about how he and Blue Panther had a match last April, which they did, And he said it was the highlight of his career, and that's probably a real thing. Like, imagine all the amazing accomplishments that Bryan Danielson has done in his career. Headline WrestleMania twice. Is that the highlight of his career? No. His highlight of his career was wrestling Blue Panther in the Arena Mexico. That's probably true.
Thought I heard him say it was a highlight, not the highlight, but I don't know. Yeah, it could go either way.
Listen to that again. I thought he said the highlight, but
Danielson's a weird dude, man.
Oh, and I was
because like winning All In at Wembley with that huge thing, like that's amazing too. The fact that and why was it in hindsight? Brad asked me this a while back. Did I think that was bigger for Danielson or Mania? And I didn't have an answer for him. I say that was now because his wife and his kids were able to get in the ring with him, as opposed to at Mania when they're like, "No, Brie can't get in the ring with you. What if you break up? That would look bad on replay." And I was like,
I don't know what's in his heart and mind. I would hope and think that was bigger because the second time he main evented WrestleMania, when he had a 3-way with Roman.
Yeah, he said he felt
Roman
nothing.
Reigns, and Edge. He said afterwards he felt nothing, and it's like,
yeah.
You have to understand for someone like Bryan Danielson who loves professional as much as he does.
Yeah.
Like, it's been his lifeblood for the majority of his life. For him to do the main event of the biggest wrestling show in the biggest wrestling company in the world, and his takeaway afterwards is, I felt nothing doing this. That's basically, in his own polite way, being like, your product is dog shit, and even though I was a featured part of it, I felt fucking nothing doing it.
It would be like a Catholic cardinal walking into the Vatican being like, whatever.
Yeah.
This ain't shit.
I wanted to add on his firing.
Pope was a lot fucking shorter than I thought he was going to be. Like, whatever. Like, it is the biggest. And
Pope
really,
big
again,
league to me, bro.
Brian actually is like a fairly, from what I've seen, understand of him, he's a fairly polite guy and like a nice guy. This, in his own way, was like the biggest middle finger.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who even like won't necessarily say bad things about Vince McMahon. Not that he endorses what Vince McMahon is or the person he is, but he kind of takes like Vince McMahon was nice to me back in the day. But he's a nice guy. For him to be like, whatever, I would wager a guess that like All In Wembley was probably a bigger deal to him. At least in the second Mania. The first Mania, where I don't know.
That was
first
probably big.
Mania main event. I don't know.
I wanted to add on his firing. The NXT firing wasn't a real firing. Like, it was wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We have to fire you because you pissed off the network, but don't worry, we're going to hire you when it dies down in 6 months to a year, which they did. So he was fired, like he was fired, but not fired.
He was laid off with a return date.
Yeah, because remember what happened is he choked Michael Cole with his tie. And I think
Justin Roberts.
And was this the original NXT show that was like the contest on Sci-Fi, or was this like when
it was the original Nexus is what it was,
okay.
And they invaded Raw.
And the network like freaked out because of the choking, so they fired him. And he did like his indie rounds, like he did Chikara and stuff, but it was, I think, specifically known, or it came out shortly after, that it was never a real firing. They're just like, look, we have to do this to placate the network, but we'll bring you back in like a year.
Yeah. I think it was about 6 months.
Yeah, and he made bank on the indies because, he had that.
Because he just got the whole damn, he just had, television experience. There's all the buzz about why he left. Oh, hey, he's going to be wrestling for PWG here, and everybody's like, oh, I got to go see it.
Yeah, and I think his original release was in 2001. Because remember we watched his match with Regal on the show. Because I think they let him go when they like closed Memphis Championship Wrestling. If I had to guess.
I'm
maybe before
not
that.
sure.
But yeah, that's what he was talking about, because he was talking about kind of how they kind of created a love of indie wrestling and like kind of created a new appreciation and like generation of fan. But I really thought it was my takeaway from it was like, wow, he's a really great guy. He came across well in this.
He came. Look, I love him. Like he came across incredibly likable. Which I mean, I feel a lot of people feel that way, but he didn't diminish that opinion, in my opinion. Like
he didn't have to do this.
He really came off as like, yeah, he came out genuine. That's the biggest thing. A lot of people in wrestling just come off like fake. He came off as genuine. Like he seemed genuinely energetic and excited about this.
And he didn't have to do it. That's the other thing why I said, wow, he's a nice guy. Like he literally showed up for a tribute show for the guy. Like I was just like, damn, if Dean Rasmussen saw this, he would probably like shit himself.
To know that, like, imagine like not being part of the industry in any sense. Like you became a promoter, like you worked for one of the major promotions, whatever. You were just a guy on a message board, and maybe, I mean, like I suppose in some respects there's some people that are in the wrestling in media industry nowadays who like have made a name for themselves. I'm even gonna put like someone like Dave Meltzer or Brian Alvarez like on a higher pedestal, because it's like they've been around for so many years and they've been involved and talked to people. It's like they could be considered like
they're about as credible as anyone in that role can be.
Yeah, but there are some people who like they have a name on like at least like in the fan and with fans, like they're known. I don't know, like take the Voices of Wrestling guys. Like I don't know how involved they are. Like I don't know if wrestlers talk to them. I feel some probably maybe do.
I think they get stuff from like backstage people more than wrestlers.
Perhaps. Like I think some people probably know of them or whatever. But point is, he was a guy. Dean wasn't. That was before, even like in the modern era. That was before he passed away, unfortunately. Dean wasn't like, let me actually. I have a YouTube.
Yeah.
Like us, like I have a YouTube show, whatever. He was just a guy who back in the day. He hooked people onto wrestling.
He wasn't
through, like his video reviews and promoting stuff.
And like Dave Meltzer, it needs to be said, like literally the last time he talked to Vince McMahon called him because he thought Lance Storm died.
Oh yeah.
Like, so I mean that should tell you what, as much as people shit talk Meltzer, what people actually think about him.
I think Meltzer had said back in the day that he and Vince used to talk like pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Like not that they were friends, but they kind of like
I think he said they
at least acquaintances.
Well, and I imagine they would get along because of bodybuilding. Because that gives them something to talk about and they have a common interest. Like I could see Vince seeing him like being like, "Oh, you're looking buff, Dave. Like what are you doing?"
What are you up to?
Yeah.
How much you bench?
Like I could totally see them like getting, and I think they're both kind of like a little off, you know, they're a little autistic, both of them, I think, and I think I could just see them getting along with each other on the bodybuilding alone. But yeah, like I mean, could you imagine, like you said, you do it for the love of the game. You probably never made a dime off of any of it. You just did it because you love it. And you have one of the biggest stars in the industry come to your tribute show and give you props. Like, could you imagine
giving you like essentially a personal thank you? Like back in the day, I got fired, and you hyped me up as like, you shouldn't have done that. This guy's great. Like, maybe he spoke that like maybe that's it, just in something in his heart. Imagine. We're of a certain age. Imagine like when we were like young, like let's say fresh out of college or something, early 20s, dumb, whatever, and we start a job, and then like within like 6 months, a year of doing that job, we get, and some guy who like knows the job, what associated with it, whatever, like they're like, you know what, you shouldn't have done that. This guy's great. And then here we are, like 20, 25 years later. Now you're like, you've become in that industry, you've become a big deal. And maybe it's local. Maybe it's like you started off like in your 20s, like I'm a plumber, and here 25 years later, you have your own plumbing like franchise.
You're the
own
clog
like
king.
you own like 10 different shops in like your small geographic area.
You have the wacky local radio commercial.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're like the king in the area of plumbers. Like you got 10 different franchises, and you're making like $1 million a year just in all the shit. Like you probably the guy. Let's say the guy that hyped you up back in the day. You're like, you know what? He's a big. You would probably be like, you know what? I love you. Like you believed in me.
Yeah.
And now look at me now. Like it's weird, but it's also like he probably was speaking from like actual like in his heart. Like this meant a lot to me back in the day, so I'm gonna pay it back.
Yeah, it would not surprise me in the slightest, and to have
it reminds
all of that. Yeah,
and it made me sad too, because I'm like, it made me sad because I was like, Dean got that, and like all me and Gene got was like DDP showing up at his funeral for all those guys that me and Gene helped over the years.
That kills me.
And it's just like
Mean Gene of all people, nobody shows up.
And that's what my like takeaway was like. Wow, he got like it really. That's why I said like Brian's a really great guy, because he didn't have to do it. Like no one would even have thought like anything. That's where I judge people like that, where he had nothing to gain by doing it. And he had nothing to lose by not doing it. Like he could have, but he still did it.
He just did it because he wanted to do it, and that makes, So that's great.
We're gonna go to the main event here. So this is we get some promos here. So this is Mad Dog Conley and Adam Priest. Mad Dog Conley's very Cactus Jack in his approach.
He is ECW Cactus Jack promo, like down to using like the similar voice tone.
Oh yes, when I saw that again, I have not seen Mad Dog Connolly at all. When he cut the promo, when I saw it, I honestly thought like I started watching it, and I think my kids had I watched this like shortly before the show, like within like 3 hours of the show. This last 15 minutes where he did the promo. And I think my kids were home from school at that point, so I was like distracted, and it's like, so I was kind of like, my attention wasn't directly focused at it. So he started playing it, and kind of half paying attention, and then I hear the voice, and I like kind of glanced at my phone. I was watching it, and I'm like, I had to do a double take, because I'm like, oh my, did someone just start airing like ECW Cactus?
Yeah.
Because it sounded like him.
It looked a little.
Oh yeah,
and dude looks like him because he's like long hair, bearded, and it also even reminded me of the infamous like mid '90s Mankind interview he did with Jim Ross, which I still listen to. Probably once a year, I will go back to watch those. Yeah, because I felt that actually built up Mick Foley and Mankind like a lot. Like that did. To me, like more than anything, like get him over with the crowd.
I got him over with Vince too, because I think he said like Vince didn't really get it at first, and like Vince was watching, he's like, "God damn, that's good shit" or something while he was doing it.
Yeah.
He knew he was like, he knew he like earned his spot essentially. But now Adam Priest cut a promo, and I'm not gonna crap.
Where is he from?
He's probably from Alabama, if I had to guess.
He is from Alabama.
Okay.
I couldn't quite place the accent, Shad, but I knew it was Southern.
So
well, given the fact that at the end of his promo he goes, "Give me my money, roll tide." It's like, well, that's Alabama to his toenails, is what that is.
Oh, he's only 29 years old. I thought he was older.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna.
Well, by the way, hold it, Shad, for you, in his promo, he has like a special like chain collar
Yeah,
and he's got a dog with him.
Yeah.
Which was it a Rottweiler? Like I forget the breed.
Yeah, it was a Rottweiler.
He's like, the funny I actually got a chuckle out of. He's like cutting a promo talking about he's gonna put Mad Dog Connolly in this like special, specialty training collar, and it's got a Rottweiler with him. But then he's like, look at this. This here's a bitch dog, and he like holds the dog up a little bit, and it is a female dog because it has
Yeah, you can tell
teats.
it's a female dog.
It's got teats that clearly it's had puppies, it's nursed because you can clearly see it's a female dog. But and I'm like, I cock my head like, what?
Yeah. So
but it was kind of effective. It's like he's talking shit about this dude. It's like, I'm gonna make you like a bitch dog. Like I'm gonna put this collar on you. Like it was interesting. I thought it was fascinating.
If he was to happen across this, because I actually enjoyed his promo. I actually thought I was really taken with Mad Dog Connolly, but I thought Adam Priest was good too. Like if he were to happen across this, my one critique would be tweak your material a bit. Like your promo delivery was really good. I thought like you got a little lost in the weeds when you were kind of doing the smarky, like he got a little smarky there when he's talking about like any style Adam Priest or whatever. That got a little too meta and smarky for me. But like I thought his delivery was good. I thought the bitch dog thing was funny because like he was leaning into like the redneck, which I thought was effective.
So the thing that I mean, it was a well delivered promo. It's done in such a way it gets your attention, holds it. But the thing I really enjoyed is this promo in doing it, because I don't know if you guys are familiar, but those corrective collars, those are supposed to be, if my understanding is correct, I could be wrong, but if you have a dog you're trying to train and it's being really resistant, those collars have on the inside, they're not sharp, but there are prongs that go around it. So if the dog starts pulling against you on the collar, it doesn't pierce their neck, but it kind of pulls. They're not sharp. It's like if you were to take one of the links that that collar's made out of and just cut it off flat. So it's the end of the piece of wire for it. And he cuts this, I'm going to do this with you, and in that promo, what he's doing is he is building the story of the match before the match even starts. Because that corrective collar comes into play.
Yeah.
And once the match ended, I sat back and I was like, he really did it. He did that. And it would not have shocked me if that was something he just did for the promo. And then when they get there, he's like, I brought that corrective collar with me. And they're like, we should absolutely do that. It would also not shock me if he called Mad Dog Connolly up and say, hey, I've got a corrective collar. We should play that into the finish and I'll do it in my promo. It's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Either way, I would absolutely believe it. But I loved that it wasn't even, the dog collar match, it was not part of the actual stipulation. But he still built it up and it played a role and it was great.
I also liked when they got to the match when it actually factors into the finish when Mad Dog Connolly was trying to hang him, he was grabbing on the fans. He's like, no, save me!
Yes.
That was funny. He starts...
that one fan's hanging on for all these guys.
He starts grabbing all the fans, and a couple of them, he's got like his hands out there like grabbing him. Then another guy pitched in trying to save. Didn't work.
No!
Yeah.
It was just like...
I don't want to be mean about
excellent.
I don't want to be mean about this part, but I ruined it for Matt because I'm like, Mad Dog Connolly has small feet and it bothers me.
He did. So Mad Dog Connolly comes out and he has just like black trunks on, but he has feet and like the ankles are taped up, and I think he has like maybe like tape strapped like in the arch of your foot.
Yeah.
But he's barefoot otherwise.
It's supportive tape, I think, to keep his ankles from like spiking an ankle.
Yeah. And I again, this is the first time I've ever seen him do anything. So I don't know if he just wrestles barefoot. It could be like part of the gimmick. It's like he's a crazy dude. Yeah. So
I think it's part of the
comes
motif.
out. Maybe. I almost feel like, dude, with your beard and your kind of long, somewhat stringy hair, people might think if you do this that you're trying to do like a Bruiser Brody thing, but I almost be like, maybe you should get like big fuzzy boots or something.
Just get
Like,
boots or something. Or
yeah, or even just like the small, like little, the short, like Steve Austin used to do, like just the short, like wrestler boots.
Get the
And by
shitty
wrestler,
little
I mean
boots.
like there are small little boots that if you do like actual Greco-Roman wrestling, like
Oh
you'll
yeah,
have a
the
small
wrestling shoes. Yeah.
wrestling shoes. They're not. I said boots. They're not quite boots, but they're not quite just like little shoes. They have some ankle support too. Just you could do something like that. Something. Just wear something. Like I don't think the. But yeah, he has little feet. I don't know how big they are,
little white
but
feet.
in the
It looks
in the
like
context
it
in the
looks like
context of
they
wrestling,
screwed the
you
CAW
mentioned like
up.
he's got small feet, and I'm like, when he said that, I like, well, my mind like was looking at them, and then I'm like, I can't unsee this. Now it's like I'm focused on
Well, I think
his
I think
little
what,
feet.
I think what makes it worse though is he has really big like developed legs because he looks like he's kind of like a power lifter in a way, and he's got these little feet.
He's kind of thick. He's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
He's not
He's not
fat.
fat. He's not fat.
He's an
but
old.
he's stocky as hell.
He's an
Yeah.
old.
He's like-
he's an old style wrestler.
He's like farm boy strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I agree with you. I would. I don't like the barefoot wrestling thing. Basically, just for the simple reason of someone stepping on your foot or something like that. When I wrestled, I didn't wear boots. I didn't even wear wrestling shoes. I wore martial arts shoes. And what they are is they're light. They're light. They're low top. There's no ankle support in them at all. But the idea is that it's the closest thing you could have to being barefoot prior to Vibrams or whatever. And I did that intentionally. Why? Because, jumping and rolling and all that, I was already doing all of that. I didn't want my ankles locked in place with like wrestling boots because I couldn't throw kicks the way I wanted to. But protecting your feet from stepping on things or you getting stepped on or something like that, to me, is like that's a breaker. And it's like I don't think it would ruin his look if he
might
had
not.
big black boots on.
I think the problem though is he's probably wrestled barefoot so long he probably prefers it now.
He probably does.
And I know
I
from my martial arts days, once you do that for like a solid 6 months, like the bottom of your feet are so callous. Like you can like when I was doing martial arts, I could walk on gravel barefoot, and I didn't give a rat's ass.
I could too, but I still preferred doing it with shoes on. But it was because how can I best put this? I thought that my kicks would be better if I kicked somebody in the face and I had laces on the top of my shoe, it would hurt more. That's part of why I liked having shoes on. If I kick somebody and I've got like tread on the bottom of my shoe, it would hurt more. Like that was the kind of psychopath I was as a martial arts guy.
So I often complain that guys have a gimmick, they don't wrestle like their gimmick. Silas Young is one I always bring up. I loved his gimmick. He didn't wrestle like the gimmick. Mad Dog Conley don't have that problem. He comes out and and you know what really stood out to me about him is when he's just beating some motherfucker up, he's got a smile on his face while he's doing it.
He has a very Cactus Jack Bruiser Brody vibe. But it's different. So
he's not like, so I agree with that because he's not, what's the word I want? He has like a big personality, but he's not exaggerated. Like there's a low key like feel to it. Like you don't feel like you don't watch me like, oh, look at this try hard. Like that's not what you get out of him.
That's a good point. He's not a try hard. He's kind of for the trope. He's kind of playing the trope straight, but it's not excessive. Like he just embraces it, and it's not like he's doing too much of like the gimmick. He's just playing the gimmick straight, and it works because of that. Because it's neither too subdued nor too over the top.
And Adam Priest is just a solid worker. That's what I took away from him. Like I was really taking with Mad Dog Conley, but like Adam Priest does like, because they said he had been the champion 2 times. I'm like, yeah, if I was running an indie promotion, I'd Adam Priest. He'd probably have my belt a couple times because he looks like he's just
He
a solid talent that will get butts and seats for you.
he seemed familiar. I feel like I've seen him in stuff before. I feel like I've probably seen an Adam Priest match or two. He came across like a good worker. I don't know how tall he is. He seemed like he's probably like he might be on the shorter side, and not short like he's 5 foot tall, but he looked like he could probably be like 5'9", you know, which is an average height, but in the world of professional wrestling, WWE might probably not gonna be calling you if you're like 5'9", but
Oh, he's done some collisions as a job guy.
okay.
He lost to
He seemed like
Dustin
he's
Rhodes.
very competent worker. Cage match alleges he's only like 29, so he's still reasonably young, if that's accurate.
He's done MLW. I'm just looking at his. Oh, he did Super Card of Honor. In 2024.
I mean, maybe Tony Khan will give a look at him, see, and maybe he's like someone that Ring of Honor could perhaps take a chance on.
He wrestles in Georgia and North Carolina a lot. I can't I don't think it would be that. I'm not gonna go through his whole thing, but it would not seem unreasonable that he would have found his way up to Virginia or DC for a show you went to.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know if I've seen him live though. Like I feel like I've seen him on like indie shows that I've watched on like video on him. I don't know that I've seen him live.
Oh, he does Tennessee a lot too. He's in Chattanooga a lot.
I will say a lot of the guys that I have seen live watching around DC area have been guys that are probably more like Pennsylvania to DC based, with some guys a little bit further south. Like I've Cabana Man Dan. That's a guy who I think he's based in the South. I'm not really sure where, but he is a guy that I've seen more than, and I feel like he traveled up. But a lot of guys I've seen are like guys are in like Pennsylvania area and down. I saw before he actually, of course, signed with AEW. I saw Wheeler Yuta multiple times.
Oh yeah, I used to watch him. Because I think
he was
in,
like a pencil.
He did CWF Mid Atlantic a bunch.
Yeah, because I think he was like a Pennsylvania guy living in Pennsylvania.
Because he was doing in CWF Mid Atlantic. I don't remember who it was for. He was someone's young boy. That was kind of his gimmick. That was when they were hot though. That was when Trevor Lee was like their champion for like 2 years.
Oh man, Trevor Lee, have you seen him do anything since he got released by NXT?
Let me see.
Well, did he get called to the main roster and then like they never did anything with him?
He would just like wrestle dark matches on SmackDown all the time. Trevor Lee. I'm either going to be shocked one way or the other. I feel like he did something. Let's see matches.
He seems exactly like the guy that he'd be like, oh, they're going to call me back anytime to WWE and then not do anything. And it's like, no one cares anymore.
He did a GCW where he lost to Leon Slater, and Mustafa Ali was also in the match. He did a Hog show where he lost to Charles Manson. He's done DPW a couple times. Did an MLW show where he lost to Mystico. Oh, I remember that one.
April, he wrestled a bunch, but I mean, oh wow, looking at this, like he's working like 3-4 times, maybe a month.
It seems like he's just fucking around, having doing a couple bookings here and there. He had the best.
So looked like
he had the best I used to love when he was in CWF. His nickname was the Carolina Caveman, which I thought was a great nickname for a wrestler.
I'm looking to see, like, so he was last time he was on WWE was a match against Braun Breaker in April 2024, and then he was on the indie scene in July 2024. So that would have been like 3 months after. So that's your 90-day
Ooh,
not compete.
I might have to check this.
And then since then, the entirety of like the year you've been released, I guess the 11 months or so that you've been released doing matches, like you're able to do matches because your non compete is up. He's done a total of 36 matches.
Oh, I might have to check this shot. So it was Colby Carino and Masato Tanaka defeat Calvin Tankman and Trevor Lee. I've heard that name.
That's
Deadlock
DPW. DPW. Yeah, Deadlock Pro Wrestling has basically effectively become like the new PWG.
It's kind of like
since PWG.
It's kind of also a bit of spiritual successor to CWF Mid Atlantic because it's a North Carolina based promotion.
Yeah.
And I think Trevor Lee is because he was obviously a big deal in CWF Mid Atlantic, but I think he is a North Carolina resident, or South Carolina.
Yeah, they DPW has like basically.
Yeah,
they're kind of like
his birthplace is Cameron, North Carolina. So, and he's I think he's in that Hardy Boys, like, not like the Omega Sphere, but I think he's in that Hardy Boy like influenced group.
Oh,
they might have trained him.
You want to know who the DPW World Champion is?
Who?
That would be Adam Priest.
Oh.
I listened to the promoter for this show was on the flagship podcast this past week, Voices of Wrestling flagship. He spoke very highly of Adam Priest as, and the announcers did too, of the best. They called him the best independent wrestler around. I could see it.
I could see.
I don't know if I agree with it because I don't have enough information to do it, but I could see it.
I could see. I could see from like the backstage business side of it. He seems like that guy. He's gonna show up, gonna do what you tell him. He's not gonna cause a stink. He probably has good ideas. Like his work seems. From this, like, I mean, it was short, but his work's good. Like, you don't.
He's willing to show his ass. Like that whole thing with him grabbing for the fans, being like, "God help me, no, no, no." Like, he's willing to show that he's scared, and that's and like, how many people? No, I'm a big tough guy. I'm not gonna do that. I don't tap out. I pass out. It's like, God's sake.
And he seems like he seems like the kind of guy that would get butts in seats if you have him on your shows. Like, he seems like he would antagonize people in to your buildings.
Sure, 100%.
But I could see it. Like, I mean, I'd need to see more of him. But like, I like my takeaway from him was like, yeah, he seems like a guy that if he's gonna work your shows, you're very few promotions would say no to having a guy like that probably towards the top of their cards.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I said, like his promo, I thought I could do some material, but I was like, oh, I've seen few indie guys, just random indie guys, cut promos that good. I mean, guys in the big leagues can't even cut promos that with that kind of delivery.
Yeah, he did a really good job.
But overall, I had a lot of fun with this show. Like, I actually might go. I think I'm gonna go over to IWTV and sign up and watch more action wrestling.
My favorite thing about this show was not any particular match. My favorite thing about this show was how it was structured. They intentionally structured this. Each match had its own role and filled its role, and they made sure that none of the matches burned anything out of the others. You start with Manders and Rhino in the opener, and they kind of do this, for lack of a better term, smash action figures into each other match that Rhino wins. The biggest name on the card, or the most recognizable name, wins the match. That's a good start. And then as it goes, every match offers something different. And it was a breezy watch. You didn't feel drugged down at any point.
Well, you know
To
how.
me,
Oh, sorry. I was looking at something and I was struck. I was like, wow, you can tell Mad Dog Conley's special because he's an indie wrestler in this day and age and he's only ever won 2 titles.
Doesn't fit the gimmick.
Whoa, why would you? But the other thing is we talk about too. Why would you need to put a belt on him?
Yeah. What were you going to say, Matt?
well, now hold on 1 second before that. How old is Matt Connolly? Does it say?
He's a little older.
He's probably young.
He's been
Not like
wrestling
21
7
young,
years.
but
I'm gonna bet 26 if I had to guess.
if I had to guess, he's certainly. I don't think he's 30. What I was gonna say, Shad, is of the show. Like I felt like the Cyber Den was my favorite match. I thought it was. I really enjoyed it. I know we don't do like snowflakes on the show. I would probably put it maybe at like 3.75. Like I thought it was just super fun. Like it's a good match.
I'd put it.
And
4.
It warmed my heart a little bit because it's like I watched CMLL back in the day. I haven't watched CMLL with frequency for many years, but it kind of reminded me of like just. It was a little better than some of like just the standard like TV stuff that you would see, but it kind of was like that where it's like you just see like luchadors just doing their spots, going all out. But I felt this was a little better in the sense that they gave some flowers to Blue Panther. He obviously presented as a big star, the legend that he was, and he moved pretty well. So it wasn't just like here's an old man, going through the motions. So let's humor him. It's like he actually did. He factored into the match and did well in the match. And I also love that they really featured Hologram. He got over. Like he participated in like winning the match and was presented as a star. I love that. And just in general, it was a fun match. I felt they did a good job. It was paced really well. So that really fun. Again, probably rated almost 4 stars, but this show overall, I thought the show was just my rating for the show is like it's fun. Yeah. Even the stuff that I feel was bad or not that interesting was inoffensive. And most of it was short. Live Your Truth keychain. What is that?
I'm on his merch page.
A dog collar? Like that's clever, actually.
Yeah.
That's really clever. I'll say the last 2 matches, the Cybernetico and the dog collar match, were
Actually,
good.
I just don't hate that shirt. It's hard.
It's not bad.
Yeah, his merch is decent.
The last 2 matches of the show were actually pretty good, and I would say like they're worth watching. Everything else, it is not like special per se, but it's also inoffensive. So it's not bad.
I can't make out details.
It's too violent for TV, and it's just kind of like his face.
It's gonna say Connolly has a great gimmick, but it strikes me as a very territory gimmick. That's not one that you're probably going to see moved to national TV because they're not going to want to do a dog collar match even every month.
Like I said, I could see him being like, he's like Don Callis brings him in, like they have like some guy leading him around on a chain, and he's just kind of your hired like killer. And it doesn't have to be a dog collar all the time, but like a gatekeeper. But like for getting bookings and being a big deal on like the indie scene and probably making like a decent living on the indie scene, I think he's got his gimmick.
Yeah,
He's got a good gimmick for that.
he's got his gimmick figured out.
But like I said, like with him, I was just like, I want to see more of him.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But I thought this was a fun show. Like I really, we've watched a lot of shows I've enjoyed, but like for just like a sit down for 2 hours and watch a show, like this has been one of like my ones I've enjoyed the most lately.
Mm-hmm.
Just because there was like Shad said, like you got a little taste of like, you know, you had the first match with like the vet taking on an indie guy, like the name that you had like a standard like vets working a tag, then you got like the kind of quasi squash, then you got a title match, then you got the cybernetico, then you got a gimmick match. Like there was you got a little blood, you got a little high flying, you got some technical, you got some southern tag. Like I just thought, and I listened to the same interview with that guy too. Like he really puts a lot of thought into like the mechanics. But big thumbs up. This is on YouTube for free on Ring of Honor's channel.
Yeah.
I would say watch it. You will not regret it.
Yeah, I can try and link it on our Twitter, but if you want to watch it, just literally go on YouTube and just type in Action Dean or Action Dean 2 and you should get it. And it's free. Like that's how we watched it. It was and great value. It's a fun show. That's what I have to say. Like I think the last two matches are a lot of fun and they're worth watching. Everything else at a minimum it's fine. But overall the show was fun. I felt it really had a good vibe. And by the way, I point out like the last two matches, everything between the matches, the introductions, the matches, for Bryan Danielson's speech, like it's like 40-50 minutes, so it's most of the show, you know. But it's worth watching. It's a great. I felt a really nice tribute to Dean.
Yeah.
And if this had been like a $10 iPay-per-view, I would have thought I got my money's worth out of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's free, so I mean,
Yeah. Like you want some wrestling?
it's certainly a value.
Yeah, if you want some wrestling, if you want a taste of a lot of different stuff, like this is a great show for it.
Mm.
You could do way worse.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But do we have anything else for this week, or we good?
No.
I don't think so.
Tapping out, bro.
Yep. Well, thank you everyone for watching as always. This is Matt, Shad, and Brad with the 4Corners podcast. We will catch you next time. I don't know what we're doing next week. So thank you for watching as always, and we'll catch you next time. I'm having issues here. Sorry, this is being stupid.